The malignant specter of hereditary madness. A solitary figure commands the scene, seated in an ornately carved wooden chair, his head thrown back in a peal of unsettling laughter. The man's eyes are firmly closed, as if to shut out the world, or perhaps the phantoms that crowd behind him. These spectral faces, ghostly and insistent, hover at the edge of shadow, their forms emerging from the darkness that pools around the chair. Their hollow eyes and twisted, ambiguous smiles convey a sense of hereditary madness, a malady as much inherited as it is experienced in real time. The man's warm, lifelike tones stand in uneasy contrast to the pallor and translucency of his tormentors. Through this interplay, the artist conjures an atmosphere thick with anxiety and dread. Echoing Francisco Goya's relentless scrutiny of the human psyche and the silent burdens passed through generations. The scene's composition invites contemplation of sanity's fragile border, hinting at the invisible legacies that linger in bloodlines and memory. Expressions of madness. Examining the ghastly faces that crowd behind the central figure, one finds a grotesque theater of human expression. Each visage sports exaggerated, caricature-like features, eyes bulging wide with terror or hysteria, lips stretched into grins that teeter between manic joy and predatory menace. Their spectral bodies, rendered in luminous blue-greens and pale grays, seem to flicker at the threshold between visibility and oblivion. This deliberate distortion, so reminiscent of Goya's satirical touch, serves as a visual metaphor for the intangible torment of hereditary madness. The specter's forms press in on the man, as if embodying the constant, unseen pressure of mental affliction. Their translucence suggests their otherworldly status, yet their proximity and persistence implicate them as unshakable presences. The contrast with the solidity of the central figure sharpens the perception of isolation, alluding to the profound misunderstanding and stigma surrounding mental illness in the 18th century. The man's torment and laughter. The central figure's face, captured in the throes of raucous laughter, is a study in contradiction. His tightly shut eyes and open mouth suggest an emotional outburst verging on the uncontrollable, a moment suspended between agony and hysteria. Every wrinkle and muscle is etched with precision, signaling an intensity that goes beyond mere amusement into the territory of mania. Yet his attire, a well-tailored waistcoat, crisp cravat, and dark formal coat, anchors him firmly within the conventions of the 18th century upper class. The juxtaposition of cultivated elegance and psychological unraveling heightens the tragic impact, underscoring that madness pays no heed to social boundaries. The artist draws the viewer into the man's internal struggle, amplifying empathy for his plight, while laying bare the tension between public persona and private suffering. In this, we see Goya's insistent call to recognize the universal nature of human frailty. The enigmatic surroundings. The setting envelops the scene in shadowy ambiguity. Heavy drapes hang motionless at the windows, absorbing what little light filters in. The room is sparsely but sumptuously furnished, its dark wood and thick textiles creating an atmosphere of oppressive luxury. The corners dissolve into gloom, suggesting both physical and psychological confinement. On the wall, a single framed painting is barely discernible, its subject lost to darkness, an echo of hidden histories and unspoken anguish. This interior, with its claustrophobic proportions and somber palette, mirrors the internal state of the central figure. The carefully crafted environment intensifies the sense of isolation, reinforcing how mental illness can enclose its sufferers within invisible walls. Every element in the room seems to press inward, focusing attention on the drama unfolding at its center, and hinting at the layers of silence and secrecy wrapped around inherited psychological pain. The chair is a symbol of power and constraint. Attention shifts to the ornate wooden chair supporting the man, its carved finials and high back evoking authority and tradition. This seat is not merely a passive prop, but a symbol loaded with meaning. Its grandeur suggests power, perhaps the legacy of family or institutional status. Yet its unyielding structure and upright form communicate a sense of constraint, as if the man is both elevated and imprisoned by his inheritance. His posture, slumped yet spread across the chair as if resigned, articulates the paradox at the heart of hereditary madness. The ways in which ancestry can confer both privilege and chains. The chair becomes a visual anchor, physically binding the man to the scene, while metaphorically tying him to the inescapable forces that shape his identity. In this, the artist evokes not only individual suffering, but the collective weight of societal and familial expectations. Dramatic lighting animates the composition, casting the man's face and hands into sharp relief against an engulfing darkness. Warm golden tones illuminate his features, emphasizing the intensity of his expression and the texture of his skin and clothing. The surrounding gloom is broken only by the spectral glow of the haunting faces, whose forms seem to dissolve at the edges into pure shadow. This chiaroscuro technique, beloved by Goya, does more than create atmosphere. It becomes a metaphor for the struggle between lucidity and obscurity that marks the experience of hereditary madness. The viewer is forced to reckon with what is visible and what remains hidden, both in the artwork and in the human mind. The interplay of light and darkness thus articulates the psychological drama, highlighting the tension between revelation and concealment, between knowledge and fear. Cultural reflections on madness. The painting's historical details, the man's costume, the room's decor, the furniture's style, root the scene firmly in the late 18th century. At that time, madness was widely regarded as a hereditary defect or even a moral stain, rather than a treatable condition. The artwork's visual cues reflect this cultural context. The formal setting and attire contrast with the chaos of the man's expression, exposing the gulf between external order and internal disorder. Goya, through such imagery, critiqued the social stigmatization and marginalization of the mentally ill. The painting invites viewers to question how these attitudes persist, even as medical understanding evolves. By recreating a world where suffering is both private and public, the artist provokes reflection on the enduring impact of inherited prejudice and the complex legacy of mental health across generations. Legacy of Goya's Los Caprichos. Resonances with Francisco Goya's Los Caprichos are unmistakable, both in theme and execution. Goya's etchings unflinchingly expose the irrationalities and cruelties of his era, particularly the ways in which society perpetuated suffering through ignorance and superstition. The malignant specters that swirl around the central figure in this painting are visual descendants of Goya's own symbolic monsters, embodying the relentless inheritance of fear, shame, and psychological distress. This work extends Goya's critique, serving as a meditation on the continuing relevance of hereditary madness, not only as a condition, but as a metaphor for the burdens of history and culture. The image lingers in the mind, challenging viewers to empathize, to question, and to remember the invisible battles that shape human experience. In this, the artwork affirms the enduring power of Goya's vision, inviting each generation to confront both the darkness and the possibility of understanding.